trample, haste, first strike, vigilance, hexproof. These are just a handful of the many, many keywords printed on various Magic the Gathering cards, each with their own rules for how they affect the cards that they are printed on, as well as their own rules for how they interact with other cards. Magic as a game has a vast array of power levels that the table can play at, from little Timmy making baby's first green creature deck, all the way to the Pro Tour. The skill ceiling, however, of making a million moving parts work together is practically infinite. When I first got into Magic, I found it somewhat frustrating. It seemed like almost every game, my friends and I would have some weird niche ruling, and we'd have to pause to look it up. We were playing less game per game. As we continued, however, and pushed past that initial frustration, I felt like I wasn't playing with cards anymore. Suddenly I was playing with puzzles, and I could make these pieces fit together in just about any way that I saw fit. This struck a chord with me, I suppose, as I suddenly found myself transfixed by all the different gimmicks and strategies that I could put together to outsmart or outswing my friends. I've always been analytical, and I knew that I liked knowing things. But as I grew a little, I learned that I didn't just like knowing, I liked learning. Then I learned that I didn't just like learning, I loved data. Wait, what exactly do I mean by that? Data by itself isn't really the most specific thing in the world, but it really is as simple as that. If I have a game or any activity where there's just so much stuff that I can easily take in new information every time that I interact with it, I am much less likely to get bored of it. You see, I kind of have a dilemma on my hands. I've had it well before I even knew what Magic was, and I'll most likely have it for the rest of my life. I get bored far too easily. And as much as that sounds like whining or a non-issue altogether, I ask that you allow me to explain. This is a real issue that has impacted my life and the lives of others like me. I have tried desperately to enjoy things. If I was able to find more things that captivated my interest, my life would be much easier. I could do more things with my friends, and I could actually stick to hobbies and hone my skills more effectively. I'm what I'd call a quote-unquote serial ideas guy. Throughout my life, I've picked up digital art, fiction writing, songwriting, graphic design, 3D modeling, just about every creative endeavor that you can think of, because I have this idea in my head that I could make something impressive. What you are seeing now is just the most recent in a long line of my dives into new mediums, and with the exception of this so far, I have given up on every single one of them. Typically, the life cycle of one of my creative journeys is pretty simple. I pick up a hobby and I'm full of passion as I scour the internet for tutorials. What are most people doing wrong? What are the people that are successfully doing this thing doing right? I do that for maybe a month or two. Then, out of seemingly nowhere, I just can't muster up the desire to do that thing anymore. It's not that I think it isn't interesting or that I've suddenly mastered this thing in 8 weeks or less. My brain just comes to the decision without me that this given activity isn't worth it anymore. As unfortunate and seemingly nonsensical as it is, I don't get a vote in that decision. To be a bit more specific, I'm going to use one of my more recent endeavors as an example, Blender. For those unaware, Blender is an open source 3D modeling and animation software. I love all things open source, so please go check them out if that's something you're interested in. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with Blender when I started using it, as it's such a powerful tool and it can do so many different things. But I figured that just learning how the program works was a good first step while I hone in on what my goals are. I started with every beginner-friendly tutorial that I could find. So I went through them and finished a good handful. I was really proud of the results as well. When it came time for me to do something on my own, however, I felt like I hit a wall. All of a sudden, if I came to a part where I wasn't exactly sure how to perform a specific action, I felt incredibly agitated as I had to go look up how to do it. It wasn't rational, and I knew that. I was still new after all. It shouldn't surprise me that I don't know how to do a lot of things, especially in something as complicated as Blender. Knowing that I wasn't being rational, however, did not stop my brain from restricting me from the happy chemicals every time that I booted it up, and I quickly closed it down for the final time. This pattern has repeated for every skill that I've ever tried to develop. Hell, even as I write and record this script, I don't know that it will ever see the light of day. Okay, so I've learned that my brain hates me. Awesome. What can I do about it? Well, I ran the numbers, and without medication and or therapy, neither of which I can afford at the moment, my options land somewhere between nothing and non-existent. I can't solve the problem, so I work around it instead. This leads me directly into my relationship with data and with learning. Like I mentioned, Magic is a very, very complicated game. I, however, being about as sane as the average Arkham Asylum resident, decided that I should quantify exactly how complicated this game is. So I looked for the official Wizards of the Coast comprehensive rules document, and it is a PDF consisting of, and I am not exaggerating, 281 pages that contain all 141 main rules, almost all of which contain not only multiple sub-rules, but sub-rules of those sub-rules. Needless to say, that's absolutely insane. And I also wanted to contextualize to scale precisely how insane that is. The most recent Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulebook that I was able to find had 55 pages with 19 main rules, once again with sub and sub-sub rules. The Pokemon TCG has a rulebook of 40 pages with 30 main rules, again with most having sub and sub-sub rules. No trading card game has ever had a reputation for being simple, but for Magic to have Yu-Gi-Oh! Beat in rules by over 7 times and Pokemon by over 4 times, it's no wonder that a lot of people feel that the barrier to entry is simply too high for newcomers. No matter how much I involve myself with this game, I feel like I'm always learning something new. But it is this attribute of Magic that makes it so lovable to me, and something that I almost never want to put down. If I'm always learning something new, that means my brain is always taking in new data and compiling it, which activates the reward system for my ruined ADHD-riddled brain. All of this is to say, if I haven't made it obvious, I deeply love Magic the Gathering. And if you related to anything that I had to say about my struggles with the way my brain works, you might love it too. I didn't want this video to be hours upon hours, so I didn't even touch on which of the many formats is my favorite, what are some good potential strategies, or any of the other tens of thousands of things that I could talk about regarding this wild collection of cardboard. But with what I leave unsaid today, so that maybe I can revisit this beautiful puzzle of a game in the future, I ask of you one final thing, my friends. Go play some Magic.